Now, if you know me, you know I've been putting off playing Thorns for like 2 whole seasons. But I finally tried it, and I've got to say, I understand now. I get it. The appeal of having a build where if anything hits you, it just dies is funny as hell. And this season, Thorns players are eating good. It's got all the hallmarks of a strong build. We've got speed, it's got insane AoE clear, and it does not do too bad on Uber bosses either. This is a build that you can play all the way to full completion this season. But real fast, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the build, I have one quick question for you guys. And that is, how are you liking the new format of the video, the way they are delivered and edited and everything like that? All of the comments down below, greatly appreciated, helps me make better content for you. And now let's talk about the build itself. And first of all, like with a lot of Barbarian builds this season, of course, there is a very high emphasis on berserking. And again, you're going to see that throughout the build. But I just want to bring that to attention. Blood Rage is ridiculously good. So you're seeing it a lot these days, and it's in this build as well. And what it does, for those of you who've not seen it before, is that it allows you to scale your damage multiplicatively with your damage berserk bonus. It takes 25% of the total amount that you have of that damage type, and then makes that a separate multiplicative damage bucket. So we just stack tons and tons and tons of that on here. And a lot of people seem to get confused, so I just want to quickly throw this in here as well. You don't have to kill bleeding enemies in order to get the damage bonus. That's just to get the proc on the berserking, and many builds don't actually need that. So just as a sort of quick pro tip there. Now we're going to break down the gear, the uniques, and we're going to talk about those because that lays the foundation for understanding how this build works. So we have the Tusk Helm of Yorit the Mighty. This gives us an ability where if we berserk while berserking, so if you cast like another berserking source while you're berserking, there is up to a 60% chance you become even more angry, and you deal even more damage, 15% multiplicative, gain extra fury, and gain cooldown reduction. But also the stats on this helmet are incredible. The ranks to aggressive resistance give us a huge amount of survivability, and the damage while berserking is of course really, really good for us. And the max fury is another core element to this build, because we'll be stacking a lot of this for our next unique, which is the Ramladani's Magnum Opus. And you've seen this one a few times in builds because, I mean, it's really, really strong this season. And what this weapon does is that it scales your damage up for each point of fury that you have. So you want to get as much as humanly possible to get the most out of the unique effect from this weapon. And it can get, yeah, you can very easily with the Yorits and with this helmet get way up to like near 200 or past 200, which is basically the soft cap for this damage type, just for insane amounts of damage. And then our last and third unique is Battle Trance. Now, this build has a very, very strong emphasis on using basic attacks. Actually, Frenzy is pretty much the only attack you'll be using because everything else is just going to kill itself by hitting you. So Battle Trance synergizes extremely well with that, but we get even more max fury from this. So again, this plays into the Ramladanis, and we get more frenzy stacks, which means more attack speed, and it means more damage reduction as well. Now, we won't go into every single aspect. They will of course be in the build planner, but it's your sort of general suite of Thorns orientated aspects. They're going to really power up and improve that capability of the build. But one thing I don't want to skip on is talking about the vampiric powers, because it gets really interesting here. It uses a lot of unusual ones. The first is Moonrise, and what this does is when you attack with a basic skill, which again, Frenzy is the primary attacker in this build, you gain 4% attack speed, stacking up to 5 times, and then at max stacks, you gain 160% basic skill damage. This will have your Frenzy hitting into the multiple hundreds of thousands, even up into the millions if you are fully decked out in gear. The next one is Jagged Spikes, and this is just a really easy pick for a Thorns build. What it does is it gives your Thorns a 10% chance to deal 300% increased damage and also chill enemies as well, which is a nice little add on there. But the most exciting part about this is its synergy with Needle Flare. Needle Flare is an aspect that we use. It's on a two-hander, so it has up to an 80% chance for our Thorns damage to be dealt as an AoE around us. So when that procs with Jagged Spikes, we just have this insane wave clear that basically deletes anything that's near us. And with the, the pure volume of attacks that are coming in, this happens very, very often. Moving on, we then have Hectic. And what this one does is for every 5 basic skill attacks, one of our active cooldowns is reduced by 2 seconds. Now, this build is attack speed capped, like 100% attack speed capped. You will be blitzing enemies with Frenzy, and you'll be going through this 5 basic skills like practically every second. So your cooldowns are going to be coming off like crazy. This is why this build is titled like Infinite Ult, because the cooldown on your ultimate is just absolutely shredded by Hectic, meaning you can basically have it up like well over 50% of the time, depending on how often you're using your shouts, which by the way should be pretty often. After that, we have Accursed Touch, which is a lucky hit chance to inflict vampiric curse on an enemy, and then a 15% chance to spread it to other surrounding enemies. This works really well with this build, because what you want to do is with your Frenzy is target the toughest enemy in a pack, and as you hit it just like a bazillion times, you'll just spam this Accursed Touch spread from that enemy to every surrounding nearby enemy and make them all vulnerable. But we are also using Exploit, so it's, it's just additive to that. As is Pray the Weak, this gives us a 16% increased damage multiplier to vulnerable enemies, and also applies vulnerable to any enemy that is cursed, which is what a Cursed Touch does. Now, for how this one plays, it is actually very straightforward. You basically go get hit by things, but in all seriousness, you want to try and maintain your Frenzy stack, so make sure you're seeking out and targeting enemies with this and keeping that attack chain up. The best way to do this, I find, is actually to make sure you have this bound to right click, not to left click. This way, it's a lot easier just to hold it down and point your cursor at enemies, and your character will go seek them out and attack them. And pro tip for when you're fighting really tough packs, and especially bosses, is that after popping Wrath of the Berserker, what you want to do is use Kick, because we're using Power Kick, which will use all of the fury that you currently have, do a ton of damage. Even a level 1 kick will do like 5 to 7 mil damage, by the way. But it will also top out the damage bonus from Wrath of the Berserker. So I'll have the tooltip up here. You can see that when you spend X amount of fury, you'll do 100% increased damage. Kick will get you there in one skill cast, and then your Frenzy is really gonna be slapping hard. As for maintaining berserking, due to the very, very low cooldown of our shouts, not just because of Bold Chieftains, but because of also Hectic, you practically don't have to worry about this. We do have Berserk Ripping as well, meaning that we're applying a bleed to all enemies around us. Same goes for Toughest Nails. This will be applying a bleed to every enemy that hits us, meaning that those Blood Rage procs are going to be coming thick and fast. We do, of course, run unconstrained in this build, meaning that we have up to 10 seconds of berserking, so that is going to be very, very, very easy to maintain. And of course, with that, we get the aggressive resistance, which gives us a huge amount of damage reduction, the bonus damage, and of course the movement speed. And there she is. That's the Thorns build. Of course, as with always, there will be a build planner down in the description below, which will give you all of your skills, your gear, your stat priority, your Paragon board, everything, the whole kit bang and caboodle. Don't forget to let me know how you get along if you do try this build, and if you feel like I deserve it, don't forget to give the video a like, maybe consider subscribing for more Diablo type content, and check out the live stream sometime, link down in the description below. But until next time, guys, take care, peace.